Hi, Brandon Monroe here, and you're listening to the Bernie Breakdown. Well, it's time for what most fans consider the most exciting weekend of the season, and what most owners consider the most expensive. That's right, it's time for NASCAR to head to Talladega. But before we get to that, the Cup Series having just wrapped up the first quarter of the season, Mark and I have some grades to give out to every single full-time driver in the Cup Series.
Yeah, so we decided to go ahead and hand out, progress reports effectively for the Cup drivers for their first quarter of the year. The grades are obviously subjective. There is no mathematical equation that goes into them. Based on a variety of factors, this certainly isn't what we would necessarily have given them if we saw their stats at the beginning of the year and then just signed a grade based on that. The expectations are certainly baked into it. Into the overall grade. So it'll go through random team order, starting off with our Daytona 500 winner, Austin Cindric. I gave him a B plus. It's not been a fantastic year. Obviously, you win the Daytona 500. That's going to be a pretty good year, regardless of how it shakes out. Has been pretty up and down since then. The Daytona 500 being his only top 5 of the year. He only has one other top 10 to begin with. That has hung around, staying in playoff contention in the points. So I think it's worthy of a B plus.
Kind of on the same page as you here. Went a little lower, B minus. Hasn't really showed me a ton outside of that Daytona 500 win. Did end up having a pretty good run at COTA. That's his best run of the season, at least finish. Other than that Daytona 500 win, which is what you expect out of Austin Cindric. But all in all, he had some big shoes to fill, stepping in for Brad Keselowski in that 2 car, and he's been okay. I think, like you said, the really good thing he's done is he hasn't, he didn't get that Daytona 500 win and then fall back to 25th in points. He's still in the top 16 right now. Even if he didn't have that win, he'd be battling for a playoff spot. So all in all, so far, a pretty solid season, or solid rookie start for his, a solid start to his rookie season for Austin Cindric.
Next up, Ryan Blaney, currently sitting second in points. Although he is winless, he's been very consistent. Currently tied for the most top 10, second most top 5s, so the second most laps, but he still needs a win. And when you're in the caliber of ride that Ryan Blaney is, and your caliber of driver Ryan Blaney is, you have a win to break into that A or A minus category even. Right now I have him also at a B plus.
Yeah, great minds think alike, I guess. Pretty much same page here as well. B plus for me for Ryan Blaney as well. He's shown consistent top 5, top 10 speed week in, week out. He has won some stages. It just he's not finishing the job, and that's been the story for Ryan Blaney through most of his career. This does seem like par for the course for him, unfortunately, but he is second in points. So he is racking up the points. He is getting the stage wins. He's putting himself in a good position to contend for the regular season championship. But he's got to start winning, and I'm with you. If those wins start to come, that B plus is going to get up into that A range. But right now, I feel that's the best I could do for him as well.
Personally, with just a win, he'd probably be an A right now.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that.
All right, up next, the final Penske car, Joey Logano. I have him at a B minus. He's been consistent, but has mostly just stayed out of trouble. Has not been near the front as much as Ryan Blaney, or even as Chase Elliott, who, although he has more top 5s than him, Chase has spent more time at the front so far. Only led 34 laps this season. Also without a win. I have him at a B minus right now.
I give him a B because this is kind of what I thought Joey would do. Being third in points is a bit of a surprise. I think that really speaks to how the season's gone for everybody so far and the randomness the new car has produced. 5 top 10s, 3 top 5s. Again, the 34 laps led, that's a bit of a problem. No stage wins as well, even though he is getting the stage points. It's been an okay year for Logano. Does need to turn it up, especially if you want to make a run in the playoffs, but for where he is right now, decent start to the season. I'm going with a B.
All right. Up next, the Penske affiliated driver, Harrison Burton for the Wood Brothers. I currently have him at a D minus. It was an absolutely horrendous start to the season. He has turned it around a little bit as of late. Started off the season with just one top 20 in the first 5 races. In the last 4, has since accrued 3 top 20s. Without that, he'd probably be sitting in an F right now. But the only driver in points that he's beating that is not Rick Ware car and is not Brad Keselowski, who has a 100-point penalty, is Ricky Stenhouse and Corey LaJoie. And even being a rookie, I still would have expected him to be ahead of some other people and have had a little bit better runs than he's had so far. So right now I have him at a D.
I have him at a D. I was a little bit impressed with him at Daytona. You do have Penske equipment. I think you're expected to run good at the plate tracks, and I really felt like going into that Daytona 500, he was the rookie that might end up in victory lane with how he ran in his duels, and he was running really good before he ended up on his lid. Outside of that, though, it's been pretty bad. I was expecting him to not run as good as Matt Benedetto, but at least closer to what Matt Benedetto put up in that car last year, and it just hasn't been there. As you said, he has turned it around a little bit over the last month or so. Hopefully he can keep that going, but right now, other than his highlight reel moment in the Daytona 500, there hasn't really been much to show for Harrison Burton this year.
All right, up next, Austin Dillon for Richard Childress Racing. Right now, I have him at a B-. He is still in the playoff hunt. He has had issues, not necessarily of his own doing, whether they be the team issues, just bad luck. He is, in terms of speed, shown less than his teammate, although they are pretty close in points. A little bit less close after this weekend, but still were pretty close in points going into the weekend. Already has more top 5s than he had last year. So he's had some, and has had lost at least a couple top 10s along the way. So not a great year, but a solid year. I have him at a B-.
Once again, I think I hope a lot of these were on the same page, because that means we are thinking alike and we do feel the same way about the drivers. I also have Austin at a B-. Hasn't shown the speed that Tyler Reddick has, at least in terms of race winning speed. I feel like he's been maybe a little more consistent at where he's at. Not saying he's been better than Reddick from consistency, but Reddick has been a little over the place sometimes. Austin, I feel like, is around that, 10th place, unless he has problems. And that unfortunately has happened to him a bit. Phoenix was one, looked like he was well on his way to a top 10, got spun in the last turn by Daniel Suarez. Bristol a couple days ago as well looked like he had possibly a top 5 run going before the engine ultimately cut out on him, and then he started that wreck that took out some other drivers. It's shaping up to be a similar season to what he had last year. I think he's going to float around that playoff bubble. If they could, get rid of some of these issues that have plagued them so far, assuming we don't have any crazy winners, I think he's going to be able to squeak into the playoffs. But right now he's on that bubble. They just have to keep it straight. It's really what they have to do. If they can do that, I think he might be in the playoffs comes the fall.
Up next is RCR teammate Tyler Reddick. I have him at a B+ right now just because I don't think, for the most part, you can get into that A without a win. Tyler Reddick, although not necessarily the caliber of driver that Ryan Blaney is, at least so far in his career, still high on the list of drivers people expect to get a win going into the season. Of our 3 first-time winners and Tyler Reddick, most people probably would have had him first. Does already have the most laps led in his career and has already tied his career high for top 5s. Things have gone a little bit different. He would have at least one win, if not more, but right now I have him at a B+.
I also have him at a B+. Should have probably won the Bristol Dirt Race a couple nights ago. If he doesn't have the tire issue, and then even with the tire issue at Fontana, if he doesn't get sideswiped by William Byron, he might be able to recover from that and still win that race. There's a not so distant reality where he could possibly have as many as 3 or 4 wins. He has shown that much speed, in my opinion, throughout the year. Circumstances, obviously the reason why he doesn't have any. But this is somebody, if they could just get that win, I could see him getting up into that A range. I'm a little nervous right now because if they don't iron things out, he is only sitting, it looks like, 11th in points, but the speed is definitely there. Just if he could catch a little bit of a break, we're going to be talking about him in victory lane. Hopefully that is very soon.
Up next, the GMS Petty team, starting with Ty Dillon. I actually have Ty at a C+ right now. Has all top 25 finishes except for his crash at Atlanta. got just this past weekend the second non-plate top 10 of his career. Currently has the highest average finish he's had in his career. I think most people expected this equipment to be the best equipment he's been in his career, but sitting 21st in points, I think that's a lot higher than most people would have had him. And it's mostly just, rode along, but gotten the finishes he needed to get.
I also have him at a C plus, consistently in the top 20. That's really more than you could ask for at a tie so far this year. Probably the best showing he's had, over a certain, extended amount of time in the Cup Series. If he could just keep doing that, even if he's not a playoff driver, I think it's a pretty solid year, and that's why we got him at a C plus.
Eric Jones, his teammate, I currently have at a B minus. Almost went with a B, but I decided to stick with a B minus. He's definitely shown a lot of speed at times, but has just struggled to avoid issues. But he is right now. That's the best a Petty car has looked since at least 2017, and without the issues, I'm sure it'd be more than that. Already has the top 5. Didn't have any of those last year. Currently sitting outside the playoffs, but on the bubble in 19th. So right now I've met a B minus.
I have him at a C plus. The speed was there at the beginning of the year for sure. I just feel like over the last couple weeks they've kind of taken maybe a half step back. Given everything that's going on right now, while he is exceeding my expectations, just the fact that I personally feel like they're beginning to slide keeps him out of that B range for me. But still, C plus, very solid start for Eric Jones. Hopefully they could bump it back up to what they were doing earlier in the year, and maybe they can make a charge for a playoff spot.
Up next, the Hendrick Motorsports crew, starting with Kyle Larson. I have him at a C right now. He has the win, and that's obviously great. But the team has just struggled with consistency, be it his own fault, be it not. You still got to get those finishes. And right now, while they were able to avoid them all last year, I think all of that's coming down on them now. He already has as many finishes of 30 plus that he had all of last year. And even just in terms of overall speed, has probably been fourth on that team overall.
Yeah, no, I actually have Larson a bit higher. I have him at a B. I think the speed is there. When he hasn't had issues, his worst finish is fifth. So it seems to me like it's a Tyler Reddick situation where the problems do seem to possibly be out of their control. He got run over by Kevin Harvick at Daytona. Granted, Daytona's Daytona. It is what it is. An engine issue at Phoenix that ruined a top 10 day for him. Very surprising to have those types of problems, especially in today's day and age of NASCAR. Atlanta, again, was running around the top 5, top 10 when he got wrecked by Denny Hamlin. Wasn't that great at Coda. Probably had about a top 15 car. Ended up getting a wreck at the end of the race. Finished 29th. Martinsville's the only bad race where I feel like they lack speed this year. So outside of that, I think he's had, top 5, top 10 speed in the majority of the races they've had issues. They have to clean it up. He's led a lot more laps than, Alex Bowman. So I definitely don't think he's had the slowest speed in terms of the team, but it's a B. Solid B right now. If they can clean it up, it's going to be higher.
All right. Up next, teammate Chase Elliott. I have him at a B right now, which is part of why I had Larson at a C. He is leading the points, and that's good, but they have just struggled as a team to close out the finishes where they've been running. Only has one top 5. And leading has a lot of stage points, but they got to be able to close it up more. I have him at a B.
Yeah, really just a copy and paste for me on what we have on Ryan Blaney as well with Chase. They show the speed, just doesn't really have the results to match it. I think moving forward they could probably fix it, but right now, even though he's the points leader, I got to give him a B plus. He needs that win.
Yeah, just Ryan Blaney's had more top 5s. Couldn't give him the same grade.
I understand that. I think the speed's there with Chase. They just have to clean it up. It's hard for me to give him something worse because he is the points leader at the end of the day.
By 3 points, but
still the points leader.
Up next, William Byron. I have him at an A. He's already set career high in wins and laps led. Has more top 5s than the same point last year. 2 wins, one of them in pretty dominating fashion. At least in the last half of the Martinsville race. I think he's been very, very solid, very good. Have him at an A.
I have him at an A minus. Only driver with 2 wins on the season. Already a career high for laps led. He's just had a couple races where he's kind of disappeared. But outside of that, career year for William Byron, A minus. And it's not going to shock me one bit if that continues to go up as the season goes on.
All right. Up next, Alex Bowman. I have him at a B right now. The team has just been far more consistent than they had been in the past. Currently sitting 5th in points, which is up there with the highest they've ever been in the regular season. I think they actually were like at 3rd at one point last year, and then it just all fell apart. So we'll see what happens. But the issue right now is I just would like to see him have more time spent up at the actual front. He is 14th among the current playoff drivers for laps led. Definitely want to get that number up. Want to spend more time at the front, but I do have him at a B right now.
I have him at a B minus, even with the win. Only 16 laps led. That's a problem. His only other top 5 was at Coda, which you can make the argument he had a top 5 car at the end of the race, but he, in typical Alex Bowman fashion, seemed to come out of nowhere. In terms of top end speed, I think he is the 4th out of the Hendrick cars. I think that's backed up by the fact he has led the least amount of laps out of all of them. But he has the win solidly in the playoffs. I will say their bad days are not as bad as they have been in the past. So that team is trending in the right direction. I just need to see more speed out of them in terms of top 5s and contending for wins.
Yeah. Okay. Up next is Brad Keselowski. New, not team technically, but does have a new team for him. I have him at a D plus right now. Without the penalty, he would be 2 points out of a playoff spot. But just in terms of speed, they've just lacked it. They've managed to stick around and get a decent finish, but they just have not had any kind of speed. I expected him to do a decent amount better than Chris Buescher, and he just hasn't. Without the penalty, he'd probably be at a C minus, which is mostly just because I think Chris Buescher's been better than I expected. But with the penalty, just because it basically eliminates any chance of racing his way in, he's got to go out there and win. Now I have him at a D plus.
Just overall performance out of Keselowski this year, he's pretty much been where I thought. I have him at a C. Maybe I thought he would have some more bad days than he's had, and maybe a few more, better days. Only one top 10 is a little bit disappointing, but his average finish is still around 16th, so it's close to where I thought he'd be. It hasn't been an awful season if you ignore the penalty, but he's going to have to win a race right now. But all in all, I think RFK is at least a little bit on the upswing, so I'll give him a C so far to start the year.
All right, up next, teammate Chris Buescher, which, like I said, is probably the reason I have Brad. It would be a C minus without the penalty. I expected Brad to be a good bit ahead of Buescher, both in just overall standings and average finishing. They're pretty close to each other, so I have him at a C plus. His biggest knock right now is just no stage points. There's a severe lack of stage points, and that's hurting his chance to be able to race his way into the playoffs. Pretty sure he has the fewest stage points of anybody that's in front of him in points. Right now, just has been pretty consistent with what he's done at Roush. So at least so far, right now, Brad coming over isn't paying any dividends to the performance of the team. But it's still early, and I would not be surprised if they start improving as the year goes on.
Yeah, I also have Buescher at a C plus. I think a lot of people were thinking it's going to be a make or break season for him, especially with Brad coming over. And he's pretty much right on top of where Brad is. So for anybody that thought maybe Chris Buescher would be shown the door in the next year or two, doesn't seem like it's going to be the case. He seems to be matching his team owner in Keselowski. And if they can keep going, even if it's not a playoff berth this year, I think they're beginning to set the foundation for that team to possibly improve in the years to come. So C plus for Buescher so far to start the season.
All right, up next, Front Row Motorsports, starting with Michael Mcdowell. His performance overall has certainly taken a step back from the early part of last year. Obviously, he won the Daytona 500, but then after that, managed to stay up into the 16th in standings, up into pretty late in the season, and is currently sitting 26th. He's only had 3 lead lap finishes so far. Last year, at the same point, he had 5. Schedule is obviously a little bit different, so that does make up for some of it, but C minus for Michael.
Yeah, also a C minus for me for McDowell as well. He's just been, to use a phrase, kind of mid this year. Nothing special. I know he has the 2 top 10s, but he's been kind of invisible. And like you said at the beginning of last season, granted the schedule was different, you saw a lot more out of him. Right now, he's kind of just there. You can make the argument he's taken a step back, so C minus so far for McDowell.
Todd Gilliland, I have it a C plus. Has been okay. Has not reminds me very much of John Hunter when he was in the car. Maybe a little bit slower than John Hunter was, but kind of just stays out of trouble. races the way, gets the finishes he can. Currently is only one spot behind McDowell in the standings, and actually has more lead lap finishes than McDowell. He has 5 versus McDowell's 3.
I also have Gilliland at a C plus. He's been very impressive to me. At least in terms of keeping the car clean. That's something you really want to see out of a rookie. Outside of the 2 plate races we've had so far this year, Daytona and Talladega, he's completed all but 7 laps. And even if you want to throw those 2 races in there, he's completed 2,388 laps out of a possible 2,434. That's 98.1%. And if you're not like A plus top tier caliber rookie who's expected to go out there and win races, I want my rookies to keep their car clean, and that's what he's done. Far different than what we saw out of Anthony Alfredo last year. And even John Hunter, while he was faster the year before, he did tear up some race cars. Todd has done the opposite. Very good, keeping the car clean, out of trouble, C plus so far.
All right, up next, we have Joe Gibbs Racing, starting with Denny Hamlin, who I have at a D. If he didn't win at Richmond, it'd probably be an F. He's currently last among the Toyota drivers in the standings. He's already tied second most DNFs he's had in his career. Has had a couple strong races outside, really one strong race outside of Richmond, which is probably why it's not a D minus. It's just been a really, really bad year starting off for Denny Hamlin, so I have him at a D.
Yeah, just copy and paste. It's a D for me as well. That Richmond win saves him from getting an F. It's as simple as that. Very disappointing, especially when you look at the past couple seasons Hamlin has had. It's been awful. They have time to turn it around, but right now, thank God they have that win, because if they didn't, it would just be it'd be the worst season ever for him. It might arguably already be that, but a D so far for Hamlin.
For Kyle, I have him at a B plus. His stats right now probably would have been more of a B, but when you factor in just what's clearly been some Toyota struggles, he still managed to sit 6 in standings, has a win, has 6 top 10s, which is tied for the most in the series. He's been solid, not spectacular, but solid. I have him at a B plus.
I also have him at a B plus. I think no matter where you slice it, he should have one win this year. Even if you say he backed into the Bristol win, luck took him away from getting the Las Vegas win. By far the most consistent out of the Toyota drivers. I'm with you. Maybe the numbers don't show it, but given the fact Toyota's been a little bit behind the 8 ball so far with the new car this year, a B plus seems about right for Kyle in my eyes.
Truex, I have him at a B minus. Almost went with a B just because he is only one spot behind Kyle in the standings, but has also just had some struggles at some tracks he's normally been pretty good at. Had a very mediocre car at Phoenix. Same thing with Martinsville. Was straight up bad at Bristol Dirt after being really good last year. But like I said, he is 7th in points despite the inconsistencies. So I have him at a B minus.
I have him at a C. I mean, there's really only been 1 or 2 races where I've liked what I've seen out of him this year. The stage points and the stage wins that he got at Daytona definitely helps this season, but this is one of those guys where when you have the expectations that you have going into the season with him, he just hasn't lived up to them. Again, not an awful season, but for what I expected out of Truex, I can't give him more than a C at this point.
Up next, we have Christopher Bell, who I have at a C plus. Would have been a D, maybe even F just a few weeks ago. If we just graded it on the last month and a half, it'd probably be a B plus. He has the second most overall speed of the Toyotas, I feel at least. And if not for penalties, he could potentially have 5 straight top 10s right now. With I don't remember if it was a loose tire or what at Martinsville, or not a loose tire, but a removal of equipment or whatever that rule is, and obviously the penalty at Atlanta that took away second place. After being pretty deep outside of the playoffs just a month and a half ago, has already worked his way up and is that bubble driver right now. So C plus.
I also have him at a C plus. Similar situation to say Tyler Reddick, not to the extreme of Tyler Reddick, but the speed is there with that car. They have to clean up their issues, some of which are with Bell, some are which with the team. But the recovery he's had to go from where he was to where he's at now over the last month shows that there's something there with this team. Hopefully he can keep trending upwards, but a C+ right now. And if that speed continues, it's going to be a lot higher comes the next quarter when we get to the halfway point in the season.
All right. Up next, the only full-time driver for Rick Ware Racing, Cody Ware. Haven't met a C. He's been less of a roadblock this year. Was going to give him a C-, but then I remembered he did have his career best finish already this year. So, I mean, I think he's just right where you would kind of expect them. The only time he's really been had any attention given to him was at Bristol, where, I mean, Chase was struggling to pass him, and it wasn't the easiest to pass there. But C.
You're a little bit nicer than me. I went with a D+. Oh, you're right. He hasn't really been a moving chicane like we've seen from him in the past, but he is still the worst driver in the series, at least in terms of the full-time drivers. He is getting better, but D+ right now, that's really the best I could do given the results.
All right, up next, Stuart Haas, and I have Kevin Harvick at a C-. Overall, has shown less speed than last year, and especially when you compare it to his teammates, where last year he was just wiping the floor with them. This year he's definitely slower than Chase Briscoe, and maybe only a tick faster than Eric Almarola, but maybe even slower. Eric started the year pretty good. On pace for not just this worst season at SHR by far, but also on pace for his worst overall season since 2009.
Yeah, I also have Harvick at a C-, similar to Truex. He's just not, running up to the expectations I set for him at the beginning of the year. I thought we were going to see a bounce back season from him. Now I'm beginning to wonder if we're beginning to see a Jimmy Johnson-esque decline out of him. His best run was Richmond. You could argue he only got there because of the tire strategy. Had 6th place at Phoenix. I think when a lot of people think of Phoenix and Kevin Harvick, you think better than that. Unfortunately for him, the numbers just aren't there. If this continues, I'm going to start worrying about him making the playoffs. So C- right now. Let's see if he can turn it around in the coming weeks.
Eric Almarola, I have him at a B-, currently second among the Stuart Haas drivers in the points. He's, other than the win, obviously last year he got the win, but outside of that, he's already almost matched last year's overall numbers. This is right now the third best average finish he's had of his career. Was the last driver to miss the top 10 to start off the year. Just been a pretty solid start, B-.
I also have a B-, compared to how he started last year and ran for most of last season as well. Definitely a nice turnaround. Good to see him doing this in what is going to be his last full-time season. I think he is beginning to slide off the speed that he had at the beginning of the year, but just given this, the first 9 races, what we've seen out of him, B- seems like a pretty fair grade.
Up next, Chase Briscoe. I have him at a B+. Almost, it was right on that line, B+, A-. He's already matched and even surpassed most of last year's number. Has lacked consistency somewhat. Right now, he does only have 1 win, 2 top 5s, and 3 top 10s. Should obviously have at least 1 more top 5 and 1 more top 10 had he just finished second at Bristol, or if the move would work, would also have 1 more win to go with it. So just with those numbers right now, only 2 top 5s, 3 top 10s. Even though he's had speed, I can only give him a B+.
Yeah, pretty similar reasoning for my grade as well. I did go with a B, though. He's got to learn how to finish races. The speed is there. He has the win. But, just self-inflicted errors. I think that's the biggest reason why I go with the B. Got into some issues at the end of Coda, had to pit, even though that wasn't his fault. That was from getting shoved off course. But then with a chance to go through the field, he had some more run-ins, ended up finishing 30th. Obviously, Bristol last week, he's just a little less aggressive. He finishes second. You can't be having those mistakes, even though he has been impressive. I expected a jump from him this year. So he's got to learn to finish races. If he doesn't, you're looking at an early playoff exit. If he could figure that out, maybe he can make a deep run. A B right now for Chase Briscoe, and we'll see what he could do for the rest of the year.
Cole Custer, I have him at an F. I mean, there's no other way to put it. By far been the worst of the Stuart Haas cars. Right now, second worst with Harvick sitting in 13th in points. Cole Custer is 24th. He is the only driver. He's one of 5 drivers that are full time that does not have a top 10 yet this year, but is by far the only one in a truly contending equipment. The other 4 being Justin Haley, Todd Gillis and Harrison Burton and Cody Ware. Some of those teams aren't all bad, but he is by far the best one. So just straight up an F.
I went with D+. He's shown a little bit of speed, just a little bit, but it seems like every time there's a little bit of a bright spot for him, something goes wrong. Something needs to change there, and it's obviously not going to be the driver given his ties. They have to figure out how to make that team better in the 41 car. So again, D+ right now. Yeah, just not a good start right now for Cole Custer.
Right up next, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. for JTG Doherty Racing. Also have him at an F. He's only ahead of Brad, Corey LaJoie, and Cody Ware in points. Brad obviously has a 100-point penalty, and even then, he's still only 2 points ahead of Brad and 3 points ahead of Corey LaJoie. No top 20 finishes since Fontana, and even at that time, only one top 25. Only 2 lead lap finishes, which is actually tied for the fewest among all full-time drivers, tied with Cody Ware, and I think that's it. Just straight up been a bad season. Had some speed at times, but they just have an every which way thing that can go wrong does. I got to give him an F.
I gave him a D. Auto Club was really his only good race. Did have a chance to win the Daytona 500 before he got spun by Brad. Just everything's gone wrong for him. I still think maybe there's a little bit of speed there. It's not like, he's had more bright spots than Cole Custer, but the bad spots have been far worse. So D right now for Stenhouse. I'm not feeling too great about them moving forward, but we'll see if they can turn it around.
All right, Justin Haley for Colleague, one of the full-time cars for Colleague, but the only full-time driver. I had him at a D+. Right now, he has had some decent races, but they've just struggled to finish well. He only has 3 top 15s. He does have no DNFs and 6 lead lap finishes, but I expected top 15 with a little bit more consistency, which probably would have put him at a C if he had that. Right now, I got a sitting 20, lost him, 25th in points. I got to have him at a D+.
I have him at a C-. They started the year showing more speed, didn't necessarily have the results. I feel like over the last couple weeks, it's going backwards. He is a rookie still, so I didn't have the highest expectations, especially with a team that they're going from part-time cup racing to 2 full-time teams. I thought there'd be some growing pains. C- right now. Let's see what they could do. Dega's this week. Justin Haley's a good plate racer. Maybe they could turn it around instantly.
I get that he is technically a rookie, although he did run 31 of the
It's true.
races.
Technically, he's not a rookie. He's a rookie in terms of actually running for cup points, but yeah. Is he actually a rookie? I don't think.
No,
they
I don't
gave
know. I don't. I think they removed the exemption.
Yeah, I think you're right.
31
So scratch
starts
that.
last year.
Scratch that on the rookie part, but in terms of this equipment, it's not Spire junk, so it's a bit different than what he's used to running.
Yeah, I mean, anyway. Corey LaJoie, I also have him in a D+ right now. I just expected more from Spire based on the way they talked about this car, and they've pretty struggled. They struggled a lot with speed. It's been a little bit better last month or so, but right now he only has 2 races. He only has 2 DNFs, which is good. And did get his first career top 5, so that's why he's not a D. But just in terms of overall performance of what I expected, D+.
Yeah, I went with a D. I'm more disappointed in them than you are by the sound of it. The way they hyped up this season, outside of that run at Atlanta, they just haven't had it. They've been pretty close to what they have been in the past. I don't see that jump that they were, teasing all off season and parts of the end of last year as well. So a D for right now, and it's another one where I'm not seeing it in terms of a turnaround. They're probably going to float around where they are for the rest of the year.
All right. Up next, we have for 2311, Bubba Wallace. He is sitting ahead of Denny in points, but it's been a pretty big struggle with speed. I have him at a D. He only has 2 races in which his average running position was 15th or better, those being our 2 quote-unquote plate tracks. I don't really want to call Atlanta a super speedway. That word doesn't really mean anything. So you have people that consider other tracks super speedways. So just what I would guess we would refer to, even though they haven't been plates in years, as plate racing. It's the only tracks where he's had an average running position inside the top 15. So I'm at a D.
Yeah, D+, same reasons. I also think this is really going to be a big year for Bubba because you have a teammate in Kurt Busch coming over. You kind of see what the car could do. Did I expect him to match Kurt Busch? No, Kurt's a champion. But he's just so far off of what Kurt's been able to do. I find some issue with it. They got to make some changes. D+ right now. Again, just like Justin Haley, we're going to Talladega, a plate track. Maybe they can turn it around and get some momentum this week.
All right, up next is his teammate Kurt Busch, who I have right now at a C-. In terms of where they've ran, it probably would be closer to a C+, a B-. They've had some combination, I guess, of how they've ran and how they finished. They started off the year, certainly took their time in the race to get up to speed, but still had top 15s in 4 of the first 5 races and top 20s in all of them. Since then, 3 finishes of 32nd or worth. Not always his own doing, getting caught up in other issues, team having issues, but still, they are a team. And right now, he's plummeted from 5th in standings all the way down to 20th. Only a couple spots ahead of his teammate, so I have to have him not much higher than a C-.
Yeah, I have Kurt at a C+. He's doing better than I thought. I just didn't know where to stack up 23-11 coming into the year. He's had some good runs over the last couple of weeks. He's had problems, just incidents not of his own doing. Coda, I believe he was spun out. I think he got into some issues at Richmond and obviously Dirt Bristol. The speed seems to be there. Their biggest issue is getting stage points. They cannot afford these bad days.
The speed's only there at the end of the race is the problem.
Right. And that's my point, is that they need to find a way to get that speed in the first 2/3 of the race. They need to get those stage points. If they don't do that, they cannot have any more bad days. They're in the playoff hunt still, but they have to figure out how to be fast in the early stages of these races.
Up next, on our final team, Trackhouse, I have Ross Chastain at an A. He leads the series in top 5s, probably has the most races in which he was in contention at some point to win. He has been a bit boomer bust in terms of his finishes. Does have, like I mentioned, 5 top 5s. Also, in the other 4 races, 19th or worse. So certainly some boomer bust there, but just especially with what I estimated him to do going into the year, and I think my expectations were probably already higher than most people's. He's exceeded those.
Yep, I also have him at an A. My expectations, I didn't think they were going to make the playoffs. I thought he was going to basically run about where he did with Ganassi last year. So for him to come out and just, be on the hot streak that he had been earlier in the year, he has cooled off a little bit, not to his own doing, obviously. They have mechanical issues at Bristol. But you have the win. Just like Tyler Reddick, I think you can make the argument he could have 3 or 4 wins if things broke slightly different in his favor. But based on the expectations I had and where he's at right now, he's an A. Only driver I believe I actually gave an A. I think the other one in the A tier was William Byron at an A-. So great start to the season for Ross. Hopefully he can keep it up throughout the rest of the season.
Daniel Suarez I have at a B-. I struggled all the way from like B all the way down to C+. Obviously just has not had as much speed as his teammate, but has also ran better than last year. Already has more top 5s and only 1 fewer top 10 than all of last year. Average finishing position up 3 spots. He's already led the second most laps in his career, and he's ran on some good teams in his career. And right now, it's only sits 8 points out of a playoff spot. It's not been spectacular, but it's been solid. B-.
Yeah, same grade here. B- for Daniel Suarez. That team has improved from last year. Again, they're exceeding my expectations. I think he's got to clean some stuff up, but the fact that they're in contention for a playoff spot is really good. Who would have thought that you can make the argument that, Trackhouse has been, the most impressive team so far this year. And just given where I think a lot of people had them and how they're running right now, they definitely have been. It shows with both of their drivers. B- for Daniel Suarez. Let's see if he could keep it up.
All right, well, that was our quarter of the year progress reports. Pretty aligned on most of them. I think the most difference we had was a letter grade, maybe a letter grade and a half. Definitely know, I think, overall where we're expecting some teams to pick up, and already some teams that I think we fully expect their grade to be much different come the halfway mark, such as Christopher Bell, who I think we both agree, at least based on his current streak, he's definitely on the upward. Then you have, like, in the opposite direction, Kurt Busch, who is trending downwards. Not all of his own doing, but sometimes these things, they just unravel.
Yeah, no, I'm a little worried about that too, but just I didn't think that team would even be sniffing the playoffs right now. I thought,
No, for
so
sure. But I still
yeah,
think if they're still based on the speed they saw earlier in the year, if they continue to run like the way they have lately, I think it's gonna be
yeah,
continuing to drop down on that. But
I would agree with that.
it'll be interesting where we sit at the halfway mark.
Well, now that we got the grades out of the way, it's time to jump into the Talladega preview, starting with the Xfinity Series. Talladega's Talladega. Obviously, if you want to roll the dice, pick a winner. Ty Gibbs, the favorite at plus 700. My opinion, I do not know why. He doesn't really jump out to me as a
He's,
plate racer, so
he's
this does not make any sense, even though he's having a great start to the
I mean,
year.
he's Ty Gibbs. He has a great start to the year. He's going to be a popular pick everywhere. I mean, similar-ish, different reasons, obviously, but similar-ish to why we usually see Chase up near the top of the standings in terms of favorites. Obviously, that doesn't always consistent. I think also part of it just the other team that's been real strong at play racing, and they were good at Atlanta, but Colleague has struggled a bit this year overall. I expect them to be strong. They were as a company pretty strong at Atlanta, but I'm not surprised Ty Gibbs the favorite.
Just looking at some of these odds, I question who made them. I get he's driving for Gibbs, but why is Drew Dollar and the Dollar Talent Experience at plus 2,000? I have no freaking idea.
Because he's driving for Joe Gibbs.
I I don't care.
There's no other which way about it. I mean, it's because he's driving for Joe Gibbs.
Yeah, well, I'm sure over under 20 laps before he wrecks.
I'll go over. I think
You
they'll
think he'll
keep it
get there?
together. Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I think I might take the under. He's something else. Some of these guys at the back, I'm definitely going to put money on them given the equipment. Jeffrey Earnhardt driving an RCR entry this week, plus 4,000. I know a lot of people don't like Jeffrey, but he hasn't really had an opportunity in decent equipment. He had some runs with Joe Gibbs a couple years ago, and I think he did solid. Given it's a plate race, you're with a solid team like RCR, plus 4,000. I think that's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, Jeffrey's definitely high on my list of potential picks there. Sitting there, like you mentioned, plus 4,000. Not that it affects much, but does have legendary crew chief Larry McReynolds on top of the box this weekend.
That's just cool.
It
That's
is just
cool.
cool. Driving
In the
the
street car.
three for RCRs. Good car, good equipment. At plus 4,000, I mean, I think you could take almost anybody in that kind of equipment at plus 4,000 here. It's certainly possible. Some of the other people I like, Ryan Sieg also at plus 4,000. Certainly the kind of track he could win at. Over the last 6 races, he has an average finish of 11.7, 2 top 5s, 3 top 10s. Certainly someone that should be high on your board as well. Also, while his starts were certainly in better equipment, you just learn things when you race for these kinds of organizations. Jeb Burton at plus 1,800. In his last, there's only 3 starts, I think, at Talladega. 3 top 10s, 2 top 5s, and a win. Average finish of 3.7. Last year, obviously, those starts were with Colleague, and the year before were with JRM, who are great teams, but he certainly has to be up there on your list. And he had some good fortune to win the race last year, but Brandon Brown at plus 4,000, even outside of that win, has 2 other top 10s at Talladega in his last 5 starts, which I think were also his only 5 starts. Average finish of 8.6, so certainly should warrant some looking at as well.
I think somebody else I'm going to look at just because I feel like I've led the way on this podcast. Ryan Ellis, been very impressed with him so far this year. Plus 30,000, $5 gets you $1,500. Play the lottery, throw $5 on Ryan Ellis. Might be worth it.
All right, ignoring the odds though, who's your pick to win this race this weekend?
Yeah, I'm gonna go against recent history. Because I feel like every time this team has showed up at this track, it's ended badly across the board. Gut check pick, give me Noah Gragson. Obviously, the odds plus 800, definitely one of the favorites. But Talladega, anything could happen. He has a win at Daytona. It's just a gut feeling. I can't say anything more than that. But I'm going with Noah Gragson.
I mean, hey, Gragson, 4 top 10s in the last 6 races, 2 top 5s. Average finish of 10.7. He's up there with among the best at the track lately. Durham always runs good, and I argued this when we talked about Atlanta. They run just as good, if not better, than Colleague throughout the race, yet somehow all manage to get collected, usually in the same accident later in the race. Something that
Exactly what happened at Atlanta too.
something that Colleague has largely been able to avoid. Obviously, sometimes one or two still squeak through at Talladega, but I mean, Justin Allgaier has ran pretty good there. Average finish of 20th. Josh Berry, it's hard. He only has 2 starts there, so it's not necessarily fair, but also average finish of 20th. Whereas Noah Gregson, 6 starts, 10.7. So if there is a guy in JRM that's more likely to sneak through, it is Noah. So that's certainly not a bad pick. I don't know. With the way the season started or has gone, I think it's either going to be another guy that gets their first win. We've had a lot of them across all 3 series, or it's going to be Ty Gibbs. I one other guy we didn't mention, by the way. I'm pretty sure he's probably in based on what he's ran in the past, an Alpha Prime car, but Kaz as well.
No, he's in the 48 this week.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yep.
That's right.
Yep.
He's
Getting
in the 48.
Jay Buford getting the temporary boot. I get why they're doing it. I think that's a good idea to see what your team has. I think this is still a Dash for Cash race, so you can't use a Cup guy. I just question doing it at Talladega. What are you going to learn at Talladega?
I mean, I think at this point, it could be one of those things where Kaz does have a good history there. If you're going to boot Jade anyway, might as well just go with who you think give you the best pick. Just who I think is going to win, I'm going to stick with what has historically been my guns in the Xfinity Series, because the one time I pick him is going to be the time he's not going to win. And I might just keep picking him till he wins, but I'm going to go with Sam Mayer.
Yeah, if only Sam Mayer had something good like Stick with the Biff that we could get behind. Because I mean that would be your thing right now, but I just don't know what sounds good with that name.
Maybe I'll think of something by the end of our next podcast. In terms of odds, though, if you had to pick one driver that you like the most, who's it going to be?
In terms of the odds,
yeah.
I mean, it's kind of probably like Junior last week or 2 weeks ago at Martinsville, but just Jeffrey Earnhardt, RCR equipment. Austin Hill won at Daytona, and when Jeffrey's had good equipment, he's run decent. Talladega's Talladega. Plus 4,000 just sticks out to me. Like I can't get that out of my head. I really like that bet. I really do.
Yeah, plus 4,000 definitely good here. I think, just liking the odds, I'm 50-50, because both these guys are not just among the tracks where they're most likely to go win, but they've both ran pretty good between Brandon Brown and Ryan Sieg. I'm going to go with Ryan Sieg, though. Same odds, both plus 4,000. I think Sieg's going to get one this year, and Talladega certainly is a big opportunity. In terms of the drivers in the series, always a little bit of a carousel that happens in the Xfinity Series, and Talladega probably more than often, obviously, in the car that has not raced yet this year. It hasn't in quite some time. We have Jeffrey Earnhardt in the 3, Natalie Decker in the 13. I imagine she will be quicker than Martinsville, though who knows how much quicker.
Well, I mean, Talladega, so I'd hope she runs at least faster.
Drew Dollar in the 18, Chandler Smith in the 26. Has he raced in the Cup Series or in the Xfinity Series before?
This is his first start. First start
for Chandler Smith. So I mean, he has experience driving stock vehicles. This kind of stage.
That team's not bad. They have some.
No.
Yeah, they have some Toyota backing, especially with a driver like Chandler in there. It's just that it's his first start.
Yeah.
So I can't really just get behind him. But we've seen drivers in their first start win before, so who knows? But congrats to him getting the ride, and hopefully he could make the best of it come Saturday.
All right, and the 28 for, I believe this is a Sieg car, CJ McLaughlin. In a driver switch this week, also for Sieg Racing, Ryan Sieg in the 38, Kyle Sieg in the 39. With the single lap qualifying, my understanding is just have more faith that Ryan Sieg will manage to race his way in than Kyle Sieg will or qualify his way in. So they've made the switch for this week. Already mentioned Kaz in the 48 and also Shane Lee in the 53. Putting together a fantasy lineup is just, who knows what's going to happen. It's impossible to know, and inevitably most of your teams will probably die. But I went with what has been, kind of a powerhouse at this track. This track, I feel like even more than Daytona in Colleague. I actually have all three of the Colleague guys on my team. Daniel Hemrick at 9,900, AJ Allmendinger at 9,700, Landon Castle at 8,800. I also have another guy, former Colleague guy, but has also, just as I mentioned, historically been pretty good here. I have Jeb Burton on the team at 8,400. And my two deeper picks, Brandon Brown, 7,300, one of his best tracks, one of the best here lately. And then the already mentioned Ryan Ellis, sitting at 5,400, has done really good in that car so far this year. I did have the DNQ last week, but it was a pretty solid field trying to get into that race. Or not last week, sorry, at Martinsville. Last race for the Xfinity cars. But it was a pretty solid field trying to get in there. And I just expect him to be able to always got to bring home a top 15 at 5,400. It's going to be good value there.
Yeah, fantasy team for me, putting together one real quick. Got to go with Jeffrey Earnhardt. I'm hyping him up. He's got to be on my team.
I'm sure he'll be on some of my teams for sure.
Oh yeah, I mean it's Talladega. I feel like almost anyone you can make the argument to be on one of the teams. But for me, just my highlighted one, I got Jeffrey, Ryan Ellis as well, Brandon Brown too. Some differences. Noah Gragson again. Think he's going to win the race. With how these races do shape up, I mean, the JR Motorsports cars, they're up front in stage 1 and 2 before they ultimately have gotten wrecked in the third stage. But hey, maybe he could get you some fast laps or some laps led. Austin Hill, won Daytona, pretty solid plate racer. I have him, and then also Brandon Jones. He came close to winning this race in the fall. He was right there with Brandon Brown when the yellow got called and then the rains came. So I'm going to throw him on a team. It ultimately just comes down to if you get wrecked or not. If your team can miss the carnage, then you're going to be in good position to get in some money. But it's all luck when it comes to Talladega. I think we all know that, and we'll be ready for it come Saturday.
I think especially in the Xfinity Series, that team element, they certainly ride with their teams a lot. So I mean, you build around the team, you take that risk, right? You might get all the guys to the finish. They all might get caught together in the same wreck. It's just
it could happen. You're not going to know until race day.
All right. For our featured matchups, just to go through these real quick. First, we have at the same odds, minus 115, AJ Allmendinger and Justin Allgaier.
Yeah, give me Allmendinger. I just have more faith in him being able to finish the race.
I will take Allmendinger there as well. We have Noah Gragson against Austin Hill. Noah at negative 170, Austin Hill at plus 140.
Austin Hill has the odds. If he was going up against anybody but Noah Gragson, I'd go with him. But for the sake of making a pick, I will go with Noah Gragson. I don't know if I'll actually bet that given he is minus 170, but I got to go with him. I think he's going to win the race. I can't back down. Noah Gragson.
That's fair. All right. And Ty Gibbs minus 150, Sam Mayer plus 120.
Who are you going with? You going with Gragson or Hill?
Oh, sorry. I'm going with Austin Hill. Even
Austin
if it was
Hill,
an even matchup, I'd probably be tempted to go Hill. At the odds, I'm definitely going Hill.
Yeah.
And then, yes, Ty Gibbs, minus 150, Sam Mayer, plus 120.
I mean, I'd be saying some of the stuff I heard at Martinsville about Ty Gibbs right here, but I can't say that. So we're going to go with Sam Mayer. All reality, though, Gibbs doesn't strike me as, the plate juggernaut that Junior Motorsports could be. Plus 120. I think he's going to have teammates that help him. I know I just talked up Brandon Jones a little bit, but again, I just don't know what Ty Gibbs is going to do. And then also their third teammate is freaking Drew Dollar. So they're already down a car in my eyes. It's a 2-car team for them this week. Maybe Chandler Smith driving another Toyota backed entry could help Ty Gibbs, but I just don't see the team, the teams lining up for them. Give me Sam Mayer, Junior Motorsports, just more around him. I think he gets it done in that matchup.
And I almost want Drew Dollar to win just to hear what you'd have to say.
I think I might just let you talk for an hour.
All right, are any of these matchups you like more than the other? If you had to bet on one, which one would you bet on?
Probably, at least for me, given who I picked, Mayer at plus 120. That'd be the one I'd go with out of the three.
All right, I think we're aligned there.
Mm-hmm.
I think that about wraps up the Xfinity series.
I would say so too. Let's jump into the big show. Let's go right into the Cup Series since that's all we got left.
Into the Cup Series. 39 cars entered this week, so no one's going home, but our guys that are In the roulette, David Reagan returning to the 15 for Rick Ware. Hemrick is in the 16 for Colleague. The Biff with New York Racing, or NY Racing, or whatever their name actually is.
Do you see what I see on the page on DraftKings?
I do, maybe, but I'm not reading through that right now.
We'll get to it. We'll get to it.
Greg Biffle in the 44. JJ Yaley in the 55. Noah Gregson in the 62 for Beard. Landon Castle in the 77 for Spire. Gregson in that Wendy's car, that'd be pretty nice race win.
That'd be cool. I'd be cool with that. But because I'm a degenerate, why not bet on the first thing you could bet on for the Cup Series this week, and that's the pole.
Yeah, you go ahead and do that. You go right ahead and do that.
Listen. At Hendrick Motorsports, plus 600 for Larson and Bowman, plus 800 for Chase and Byron. I'm just saying, there's some money to be made here on the pole.
You're going to put 100 on each of them?
I mean, I don't have the balls to do that, but somebody out there, if there's somebody that has a bigger bankroll than me and wants to try, there's a chance there. There's an opportunity to make some money here.
They'll be real sad when, despite all odds, somehow Austin Cindric walks away with the pole.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep looking at this. Obviously, there's no practice this week, so there's no way to know if any of these guys has something that can knock off one of the Hendrick cars. But they have, as of late, been in a league of their own when it comes to plate.
The problem is I can't remember qualifying at a plate track that isn't Daytona for the 500 because we haven't had it in 2 years.
No, exactly.
Almost 2.5 years.
But they're up there. They're always up there.
I don't remember what they did back then, but
I'm not digging through a couple years worth of stats now at this moment.
But into the overall race odds, I don't think it's anyone's surprise. Ryan Blaney is the favorite at plus 1,000.
Yeah, I mean that's good.
It's pretty standard Talladega race. Pretty standard plate
so
race.
Hard to bet the favorite.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 guys that are anywhere from 1,000 to 2,000. Well over a quarter of the field. So it's a plate race. You have guys that basically, if they've ever contended for a win, they're going to be up here. Based on the performance this year so far, I probably honestly like Ross the best at plus 2,500.
I know
at least among the contenders. Yeah. I have a guy that I think you're gonna throw out here, but go ahead.
I think I see who you're looking at. Is it Eric Jones?
No, I'm not looking at Eric Jones. I was a little bit higher than that.
Eric Jones at plus 7,000 is one that I do like. He was in position to get a top 5 here at the end of the race last year before he got spun into the wall coming to the checkers. I'm going to stick to my preseason predictions, though, because everything's kind of gone to plan so far. Sure. Tyler Reddick has run great pretty much everywhere. You feel like he should have already gotten his first win, so how fitting and hilarious is it going to be when he flukes into a plate win at Talladega? He is plus 2,000. I do like that, but I got to stick with the guns. I'm going to go Tyler Reddick plus 2,000. That's the one I'm circling right now. We're gonna run with the preseason predictions on it.
That you're the guy whose odds you like the most too, and your pick to win.
I think if I'm looking at odds, I really like Eric Jones at plus 7,000. He has a win at Daytona. He's run good at Talladega in the past. Almost won this race in 2020 before Ryan Blaney put him into John Hunter Nemechek into the wall. So plus 7,000, that's one you got to put like $10 on that. You just have to.
Or for the odds, David Reagan plus 10,000. I know it's a Rick Ware car, but he did go out and get a top 10 at Daytona. Todd Gillen in a car that I don't know if that car number has literally won here, but that team's won here. They're always contenders. If you like McDowell at plus 3,000, there's no reason not to like Todd Gillen at plus 10,000. I know McDowell's better, but I don't know that he's over 3 times better than Todd Gillen. Gregson in the 62. Gregson's been a serviceable plate racer. The 62 car with Brendan Gaughan has been near the front here late in the race before.
And upside down at the same time.
And then landed, but never landed on the roof. I mean, it
That's
might have
true.
been other points, but the time you're thinking about it didn't land on the roof.
Yeah, no, just a roll, an air roll.
So
Pretty
certainly
crazy.
in there. Ty Dillon, that's kind of a sneaky pick coming off a top 10. Only has 2 top 10s in 8 races and only 1 top 5, but has finished on the lead lap in all 8 of his last 8 starts here.
Mm-hmm.
Average finish of 12th. Best team that he's been with. Well, I think, and the best full-time team he's been with. I don't remember if he ever had any other random starts out there, but certainly a guy at plus 9,000 you have to like. As you mentioned, Eric Jones at 7,000. A driver like Daniel Suarez at 6,000. But the guy I thought you were going to mention, I think the guy I'm going to take is Harrison Burton at plus 5,000. That team had a lot of speed at Talladega or at Daytona. The Fords for a while now have just seemed to be the best car at the plate tracks. So for the odds, I'm going with Harrison Burton at plus 5,000. Pretty crazy. I know it's not been a good track for him, been one of his worst, but pretty crazy seeing a plus 3,000 next to Truex.
Yeah, I mean it's right though.
It is right. It is right. It's still crazy to think. My pick to win though, I'm gonna go with the Riley veteran who desperately needs a win, and just to throw more chaos into the season, I'm going with Brad. And then he'll have what, -5 playoff points?
Yeah, well, maybe he'll win a couple stages.
Maybe he might win a couple stages.
Maybe he'll get to -3.
Get to -3.
Yeah, that'll be something. I desperately want to see him in the playoffs, just so he has under the cut line. Like, get him that win to get him in.
That would be pretty.
That'd be pretty funny.
It would be pretty funny. No more stage wins after that. Not for you, Brad.
No more. Sorry, Brad. None. No more.
Right. For our featured matchups, first up we have Joey Logano and Brad Keselowski. I'll go ahead and say I have to pick Brad. I think it's pretty consistent here. You pick a driver to win, you better pick him in the head-to-head. So I'm going with Brad.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Brad too. It's just he ran so good at Daytona. I don't really remember seeing Joey other than getting stuck in the grass. It was really a forgetful Daytona 500 for him. I guess he lost to Truex for a stage, a drag race there to end stage 2, but compared to normally how you see Joey Logano run at these plate tracks, he's kind of invisible at Daytona. So
I would agree with that.
I'll go with Brad. He ran good at Daytona, won a duel. They seem to have their plate racing in a good spot right now for that organization. So I'll go with Brad.
All right, Denny Hamlin and Bubba Wallace, and as bad as Bubba's been, I think especially to maybe some expectations we had, I can't touch Denny with a 10-foot pole right now. Every time he has the win at Richmond, and literally, other than that, basically everything that could have gone wrong could go wrong. I think it was his first DNF he's ever had in the 500 this year, if not his first.
Yeah,
his first in a very long
I think
time.
You're right. I think it was his first. Yep.
I don't remember what happened to Fontana. I think he just didn't run good. Had a good car at Vegas, not as despite what he wants to say, maybe not as good as the other 3 Gibbs cars, but still had a good car and had an engine fail. Something broke in it. I don't remember what. Was abysmal at Martinsville. Was not very good at Bristol before his car broke. Just everything that can go wrong with Denny is going wrong. For his sake, thank God he has a win. But I'm gonna go with Bubba here.
Yeah, same. Gotta go with Bubba. Just to add to that, Atlanta, he was running good. I know Atlanta's not Daytona or Talladega, but it is, they do use the plate package, and he wrecked with Kyle Larson running in like the top 5. So nothing could go right for Denny Hamlin other than that one win at Richmond. Bubba really sneaky has come up on everybody as, one of the better plate racers.
Very underrated plate guy.
Yeah.
I don't think he got a top 10. Maybe he did at Atlanta, but he crashed too.
Yeah, so I think he finished just outside the top 10. He crashed coming to the checker.
He was up there in contention. Yeah. Obviously finished second at the 500. One when we were here last time, and I know it was rain, but it's one of those instances where everybody knew rain was coming.
He drove up there.
Everybody knew rain was coming. No one sits there and acts like Matt Kenseth didn't deserve the second Daytona win he got, because everyone knew the rain was coming.
Mm-hmm.
So, sure, rain had to come for him to get it, but he was racing like it. Everyone was racing like that race was about to end.
Yeah.
So, very sneaky plate racer lately. Up next, Ryan Blaney and Chase Elliott. I feel like all the logic says you should take Ryan Blaney here. But I don't know, just this normally feels like the kind of race he would win. Has had a lot of speed at other races, and then just doesn't get it done. Just things go wrong, and then winds up winning here. But I don't know. I feel like because people are expecting him to win, he's not going to win. So I'm going to go with Chase Elliott.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Ryan Blaney on this one. He's just the better plate racer. Chase isn't bad. Chase isn't bad. Not saying Chase is bad, but Ryan Blaney's better. So
you're not wrong in that Ryan Blaney is better. But in terms of finishing here, Ryan Blaney has not been all that great. He has the 2 wins, but only has one other top 10 in the last 10 races.
I'm still going Ryan Blaney.
It really feels like he'll either win or crash, finish outside the top 10. And I just think a lot of people are expecting him to win, so I'm going to go with Chase here. Just feels like how Brian Blaney operates.
Yeah,
he doesn't want to.
Not wrong, but to me, it's just a safer pick. I don't know, like something stupid's going to happen to Chase. We talked about earlier about how these guys both can't finish races. Like Ryan Blaney might make a bad pit call and they can't recover. Chase Elliott, his crew's going to freaking leave off a lug on their last pit stop and the tire's going to fly off. It's worse. It is worse with him. So I'm going to go with Ryan Blaney. I just feel safer with that.
Chase has more top 5s in the last 10 races. So.
Oh. Well, hopefully for your sake, he could keep it up then.
And Tyler Reddick, Chase Briscoe, DraftKings really knows how to pick them. This is the one that I don't. I mean, you have to go with Reddick. You don't really have a choice.
Yeah, no, I don't have a choice. That's number one rule on this podcast. I feel like if you pick a driver to outright win the race, you better damn well pick them to win their head-to-head matchup. So I'm already locked in.
Otherwise,
yeah, it really doesn't. So I'm locked in. I'm going Tyler Reddick. I don't need to say anything else. I can work on my fantasy team real quick.
Yeah, that one's real close for me. Just their history here is limited. I'm gonna go with Briscoe for no reason other than the Fords have they've been the good car here for a while. It feels like so. I'm gonna go with Chase Briscoe.
Yeah, he is in the preferred manufacturer, so I will give you that. That does make sense.
Jumping over to our fantasy lineup I put together, and I'm sure I'm gonna put a lot together in the cheap contest because it's fun, but it is Dega, so I'm not gonna go anything crazy in terms of what contest I enter. But starting off, even though I just said that Chase beat him, I still have Ryan Blaney on this team, and I'm sure I'll have Chase on teams, but. For now, I have Ryan Blaney, mostly because I do feel like Ryan Blaney will lead a lot of laps. He does that. He does do that here, it feels like. So I have Ryan Blaney as the top guy. I also have Joey Logano. And then just to, fill out the team, because he did win Daytona, I also picked Austin Cindric. Ryan Blaney at 10,500, Joey at 10,300, and Austin Cindric at 7,900. I also have Brad, my pick to win, at 8,900. And then my value picks here, I went with Ty Dillon, 6,100. Been pretty solid this year in terms of just getting those top 20 finishes. And then been pretty solid at Dega overall. And then my deep value pick, I went with David Reagan. Both of those I was pretty close at. Guys in that area, obviously, I don't think Noah Gregson's a bad choice. He's been solid. And that team's been solid. Justin Haley, while he struggled this year for sure, that team is he has a good history at plate racing, and the team certainly has the power capable of getting good finishes.
Yeah, I am going with a Ford party with a special guest from the sneaky good plate driver, Bubba Wallace. So we got Bubba on this team, Brad Keselowski, Daytona 500 champion Austin Cindric, Chris Buescher, kind of lost in the radar. He ran pretty good at Daytona too. Won his duel, and he had a pretty solid run before he got. I think it was in that wreck with Stenhouse after Brad spun him. Rounding out the team, Eric Almarola has won at Talladega before. Almost won sliding across the line backwards. Solid plate racer. Pretty good value pick when you get down to the money.
In terms of average finish of guys who've run at least 2 races, he has the best average finish in the last 10 at Talladega.
It's even better than I thought. So 7,500?
7 top 10s, 5 top 5s. I think it's the most top 5 in a time span too. Tied actually with Joey.
Yeah, so Eric Almarola, and then I'm going to go with Ryan Blaney as well. But you could really swap Blaney out for anybody. He's the most expensive guy, so you could pick anybody else. Probably going to use this lineup without Ryan Blaney as well, and maybe throw in a Joey Logano or a Tyler Reddick, somebody else I think could possibly win the race. But for this one, featured lineup. You mean Ryan Blaney, 10-5, remaining salary 200 left. You cover your bases with all the Ford guys. You get, again, one of the sneakier good plate drivers in the series and Bubba Wallace on the team. Again, just like the Xfinity series, it's going to come down to if there's a wreck or not. But if all these guys survive, I like my chances. So we're going to roll with it.
I mean, any team could do good. It's hard to put together a team and think you have no shot unless you really, really screw the pooch. So
yeah, I don't know what you'd be doing there. We don't have over 40 cars. Everyone's in the field, right?
That is correct. All 39 cars are in the field for the Cup race.
Yeah, so if
some will go home in the Xfinity race. So obviously, if you set your lineups early, keep an eye out for that. But for the Cup race, they all will race.
Man, so those are the teams. Any final thoughts before we sign off?
I mean, it's Dega, baby. It'll be hopefully fun no matter what. And I hope we get a new winner for the season at least. Doesn't need to be a guy getting their first time win, just first ever win. Just someone new. Let's get that number up to 9 winners and 10 races.
You're all about the playoff chaos, aren't you?
Well, because I always used to be on the side of, I think we're talking about it too early. Like, we're close, but like when you really look at it, are we that close? And I think that's even true this year, to be honest. Like, no one, I guess maybe Cindric in the Cup Series is the most shocking in terms of race winner. And I think that's fair, and I don't think it's that crazy. Obviously, the performance by guys like Chastain or Reddick have been surprising. But the fact that they have a win, I don't think is super shocking. Maybe some people would have Chastain as the most unlikely winner this year, but
I know I would, because I had Cindric winning a race. I didn't have Chastain winning a race. I just figured Cindric would win at a road course. It's shocking where he won, in my opinion, not that he did win a race.
So we're still really not all that close, because even when you look right now, we have 15 guys, right? Because Denny's already outside the playoffs.
Yeah.
And yeah, there are some guys that outside of that top 15 that can get wins, but not a lot of them. But now people have switched to where, like, if you even talk, people like it's a conversation people like to have. And now some people just immediately try to shut it down. So now I'm on the side of let's just bring in the chaos.
The chaos.
Maybe, right now at least. And obviously if Brad wins, this would change. But, if right now the guy most likely to miss, if we get 17 winners, is Denny Hamlin. That, obviously very likely to change if we keep getting there. Especially, like I said, if Brad wins, that kind of has to be true unless Brad... I mean, if Brad catches Denny in points at this point...
As it stands right now, I think Brad would catch Denny in points. As it stands.
That's sad for Denny.
Yeah, it is. It's very sad.
It's not... Like, Denny's obviously struggling in performance, too. I think people are underplaying the performance struggle they've had. But even if Denny just finished where he ran, Brad wouldn't catch him.
Mm-hmm.
But just so many things have gone wrong for Denny, and it continues to.
Yeah, I
think,
like
I said, he has the win, and it allows them to try to just focus on getting more speed.
Well, until we get to 17 winners, Denny Hamlin's in the clear. So hopefully, for his sake, we don't get one. I'm kind of with you. I want to see the chaos. So maybe we'll get a first-time winner, or not a first-time winner, but a new winner. I'm hoping for Tyler Reddick, but anybody who's not in the win column,
it would be pretty on brand for Ryan Blaney to win the regular season championship with no wins as well.
Would it also be on brand? Because that gets you in even if you don't have a win.
No, I know. So, that's my point. That's my point. That would still accomplish what we want as well.
Right.
It would effectively be the same scenario as people always describing 17 winners. It's the same overall scenario. A guy with a win misses. So,
hey, it's going to be fun. I know I'm real excited. Talladega is always great, especially because you get to go race on iRacing too. So, best weekend of the year, one of the best weekends of the year. Can't wait to watch it play out. We'll have a full recap after the race, probably out on Monday. Until then, guys, thanks for listening, and we'll catch you later. Brandon Monroe here. Thanks for listening to the Bernie Breakdown. Remember to keep listening to us on your favorite podcasting platform. And remember to follow us at Bernie Breakdown on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and all of our other social media platforms.